What is the right asset allocation for an investor? In 2023, we saw equity do extremely well. We saw precious commodities like gold do very well. We saw opportunities open up both on global debt and domestic debt markets. So that raises a very big question. How can an investor really take advantage of a multi-asset approach? Join us this Saturday where we understand how an investor should take advantage of multi-asset approach and how does multi-asset investing play a role in meeting your goals.
Positioning families towards generational wealth. Usually, a family's rise towards wealth happens at the hand of one generation. One generation pulls a family out of poverty into good life, into success and into super success. All this usually happens in one generation under the guidance and effort of one visionary. Usually that's what happens in a family. When I say family, it could be a family of a professional, a family of an entrepreneur, a family of a businessman, a family of a trader, a family of a farmer. It could be any family. So let's not think that this only pertains to one type of family. It could pertain to any type of family where an individual is an outlier or a super outlier in what he does, and he raises his family from very humble levels to a very, very high position. But it's not enough for that individual to achieve. What follows is what determines a family's positioning towards generational wealth, because wealth may be created by one person, but it may not last if the family is not well positioned in the following generations. So it's critical that success is well understood not only by the person who creates it, but also by those who inherit his legacy. Respecting that success should be reflected in how that family handles the wealth. If the family is irreverent or very, very indifferent to its responsibilities towards that wealth, then it's setting itself up for serious trouble. So, creating wealth is one side of it. Positioning the family for generational wealth is the other side of it. Any successful person has to take care of both sides. Don't for a moment think that this is only relevant to very, very big industrialists like the Ambanis or the Tatas. It is important to every professional, every doctor, every lawyer, every accountant, every CEO, every board member, every small businessman, every person who is an entrepreneur in various ways, to every farmer who scales up his activity, to every kind of person it is applicable. So today we are going to talk about generational wealth and positioning. Subra, your opening comments on that.
The activities, if I tell you, has got nothing to do with money. This sounds very odd because we are talking of wealth and I am saying it's got nothing to do with money. It's got to do with attitude. Because once the attitude and things are in place, then the wealth follows. You don't have to chase wealth, aim for wealth, etc. Like I keep giving this example, which I think many people may have given. If you want a beautiful rose, the inputs into it don't look like the rose, right? It is mud, it is some plant that you have put, it is some fertilizer, it is water, it is care, and what you get is rose. So wealth is something like that. The efforts don't look at all like wealth, right? So teaching the children the value of money, teaching the children the value of how they should handle the money, teaching the children, telling them that home, it is socialism, because you're born in this family you will get a certain thing, but in the business, in the office, it is capitalism, you will get what you deserve. All this is very important. Teaching the children value, teaching the children that going to buy in such and such a place, why do we go to the wholesale market to buy, what is the advantage, what are the disadvantages, that money doesn't come into the ATM, somebody has to put it into the ATM, only then it comes out in the card, which you have to teach your 5-year-olds and 3-year-olds and then the 14-year-olds. Teaching them to buy, teaching them basic arithmetic, understanding values, and I see rich families do it better than the poorer families. So they are not rich just like that. So they have got rich and they make tremendous amount of efforts to remain there. People think it must be very easy for the rich people. No, they go through the hassles of all this and tell the kids what they will get, what they will not get, what they deserve, what they won't deserve. Right? All this is well documented in their minds at least, so that the intergenerational wealth is created, preserved and grown.
I've seen instances where a person in the 40s created prolific wealth and then suddenly dies in an aircraft crash. Subsequently, the family simply disintegrates. As if history repeats, in the early 90s, the same thing happened to a Birla when he was going to inaugurate the 3M factory. Imagine what would have happened if he had lived. But ideally, the same thing should have happened even with the tragic passing of the person. On the same flight, I want to tell you that one of the promoters of Balkrishna Industries, Govind Rubber, also died. Look at where that company has progressed from the same accident. Preparing families generationally is not about telling people just all about wealth and money. It's a lot more than that. It's value systems, it's about how you pursue opportunities, how you see yourself in the world, how you see yourself in your peer set, how you want to work to succeed. I mean, how you see work as the means to succeed and not just growing capital as a means to succeed. There's so many things. When two families are put in a situation which is difficult, their preparation towards generational transition determines which family ends up successful. And for that, this plane crash analogy which I told you is always a telling thing. It keeps, it keeps reminding you that things can be very different if you're not adequately prepared. And I've seen this with a lot of families, business families. They take their children to the workplace from a very early stage. I have been to my father's factories, office from a very early stage. My father has taken me to BHEL where he had work, and I would be waiting in the car park for 5 hours, 6 hours, maybe reading a book or playing a game or something. What I learned was that business was not easy. Otherwise, you're just seeing the cars, you're seeing the clothes, you're seeing your lifestyle, you're not seeing the struggle. Most parents who are successful in generational transition are showing the struggle to the next generation. But we also are at a time when parents think that the children should be insulated from struggle. I have struggled, my kid need not know about all that. My kid need not struggle. That is a certain kind of a thought process that is coming in these days. But I believe that wherever there is success and sustained success and generational success, you need a certain type of indoctrination. Yeah, that's the word I'm using, because you need to indoctrinate a lot of things into a person so that that person is prepared to handle the responsibilities later. Now, we spoke a lot about business people, but I think this applies to professionals also. A person running a good CA firm, okay, is unable to convince his children to come into that firm. A person running a great law firm is unable to bring his children to come into the same law firm. Doctors are unable to make their children become doctors. They go on to become something else. All this is not wrong, but the reasons which they give don't sound right. They're very weak, feeble reasons. Because if you don't do this and you choose to do something else, are you really an outlier at that? Because your father is an outlier in law or chartered accountancy or medicine. So you choose to go into software or IT services. You are one in how many lakhs? So this transition I see as a issue that doesn't just stop with somebody not going into the same field. That's not the point. You will also see that there is a reluctance to handle all other legacies, wealth, portfolio, assets, responsibilities, because many people, when they grow in life, they create charitable trusts, they create foundations, right? There are families which have history of doing good work in their native place, though they have moved to the cities. Now all these things have to be transitioned to the next generation. It's not just the money and the portfolio. That's a very narrow definition. They have rights in the places of religious worship. They have lands which they take care of. They have social organizations which they run in their places. They have charities, as I told you. And they have a huge set of people whom they support socially, who have been with them for generations. So all these things suddenly hang in thin air, because there is no effort to prepare a generation, or there is inadequate effort to prepare a generation towards transition. Now if you don't do all the other things, then wealth transition will be suboptimal. So you've seen the story of lands getting lost, particularly agricultural lands getting lost to lease holders. They are not returning the land, so you don't get the land back. I use that phrase absentee landlord. It's not just for agricultural land. You can say you are an absentee landlord in everything. You think your father will take care of it in his lifetime, and then you will take care of it after his lifetime. You will be completely ill prepared to handle anything. And you will end up being a failure. And society will tell you that this guy was not worthy of his father. In such instances, I see that the generational transition failed. It's a failure of generational transition, and it's bad positioning. Whenever we see business groups also, you may have noticed this. I'd like to hear your views on some groups. I've said a lot.